Churchill Downs.
Nice.
Nice.
2021?
No,
No.
I think it's the 115th. So this one was the 147.
Oh,
Oh, well.
no.
But
Yeah, so,
someone gave me these. And this is from 1931. This class from Saratoga Springs.
very good.
Well, it's in good shape.
Yeah.
All right, Bob, you are on live stream and you are now recording.
Great. Let's see. So we are ready. We'll call to order this meeting of the town council. Good grief. Let me start again. We'll call to order this meeting of the pension committee. We have a quorum of the pension committee. I note that Rob Mara, Andrew Morgan, Randall Watt, Roger Lord, Stephanie Manchester Wilkie, Steve Ham, and myself are all present, which constitutes the entire committee. In addition, Joe DeSantis, the finance director, is on, as well as Carol Wardell, the host. The first item of business we have this morning is to receive requests from Christopher Osborne and Deborah Gay for retirement. Chris Osborne is reasonably sure that he intends to retire. He wants to put that in I'll say on July 1st. He wants to get that in so that the process can get underway. It may not be exactly July 1st, but Christopher Osborne Sr. intends to retire as a member of the maintenance crew at the school. And Deb Gay is in a similar status in the school, retiring from a couple of positions that she has there. So I would seek a motion to accept the request for retirement from those two individuals.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second.
Motion made by Watt, second by Mara. Is there any discussion?
This is a standard retirement.
Right. These are both standard retirements. They both met the necessary dates to do that. We'll then ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Mara,
A.
Mr. Morgan,
Aye.
Mr. Lord,
Aye.
Mrs. Manchester Wilkie,
Aye.
Mr. Watt,
Aye.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
and Mushin, aye. Great, thank you. The next item of business is a couple of requests. In our public safety personnel, there are 3 people currently who will reach age required retirement, which is 62 years of age for public safety personnel. They must retire by age 62 in accordance with the town ordinances, prior to reaching 25 years of service. And the question that has been posed to us in management from the unions representing these people is, could there be any adjustment made to the pension rules for their retirement so as to permit them to use the benefit that is unique to public safety, that is 25 years of service. A retirement occurs at that point, and the retirement benefit for that is 50% of salary. Obviously, if a person doesn't achieve that, and in one case has 21 years of service, that person is subjected to 21 years times 1.65% times salary. So the question, which has not yet been negotiated, but involves obviously the pension committee, is would the pension committee be willing to modify the pension plan? For example, and this is not the only solution to this, but it seems to me it is a solution that we might consider. For a public safety person, would the committee be willing to modify the pension plan to say that if a person serves some minimum length of time, perhaps it's 15 years or 20 years or something, that the pension would be available to that person in the same ratio as it is to someone who serves 25 years. Hence, a person who serves 21 years would receive, let's say, and again, this is a for instance, would receive 42% as a multiplier rather than the 1.65 times number of years of service.
Which is 35%.
Which is 35%. Thank you. So,
Let's have that again, Bob.
I'm sorry.
Could you repeat that?
So what I'm suggesting is, might we consider I'll call it a public safety-like solution that says, we acknowledge that you haven't served 25 years and therefore are not eligible for that retirement, that 50% retirement. But since, again, in my example, since you've served 21 years, we are willing for it to be 42%. Now, we might want to put a floor in there so that if you serve 3 years, we'll give you 6%. No, you still have to vest. All right, serve 10 years, we'll give you 20%. No, we're not, we want to do this after a period of service that is substantial to the town, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of my argument running in my mind as to how we might approach this. But I wanted to put it before the committee, and I'm not sure we can sit here and decide today, this is the answer. It's probably going to require some reflection and some looking yourself at the rules and say, okay, now I've looked at it, I'll come back and tell you what I think.
So do we want to be hiring older public safety employees?
Well, that's a great question. I will tell you that I had not anticipated this question. I had not anticipated this until it was pointed out to me that we have, and of the three, one lacks 1 month. In other words, will be 62 at 24 years and 11 months. So there might be a different solution available there. I don't know if there's some past service that could credit a month or whatever. Another is a year or so, like a year and a half, and then the third is more significant. It's like 4 years. But to your question, we're not. When you say, do we want to hire? We don't discriminate in those who apply on the basis of age. And that's not part of our hiring process that says all public safety personnel, no public safety person may enter our service unless they're this old. But we did say in our ordinances years ago, and it's still there, that we don't want a 65-year-old or a 70-year-old hucking a stretcher around or
Right.
serving. So yes, it is a young person's game, so let's say it that way. So yes, we would prefer that we not face this.
So I have a question regarding the 24-year and 11-month person.
Yeah,
So in the pension, it also says that if you work 1,000 hours in that year,
yeah,
then you are considered to have your full year of service. That person and myself have a letter from you stating that.
yeah,
So if he makes it to 24 years and 11 months on his birthday, he would have worked that 1,000 hours in that month. So he
Right.
would theoretically get his full pension, correct?
That's correct. I'm just taking a snapshot of our current status, but you're right. There are all sorts of other circumstances that fold into that. And
Okay.
that's one of them,
Okay,
which says exactly what you said. In order to receive credit for working a year, the person has to at least work half time. It doesn't say it that way. It says 1,000 hours, but that's right. So I'm not trying to say we need to bail out these three people. I'm saying these are the current three examples. And to your point, I don't, we've got no one coming up that's in that category at this point, but it wouldn't be unusual, for instance, for us to hire we've done it, to hire a person from another town who wants to come and work here. And if that person were to achieve, and the person I'm thinking of did not, but if that person were to achieve vested status, then we'd be faced with this again. We'd have a coming up to 62-year-old who says, I'd like to be able to participate in this greater benefit, and I'm constrained from doing so because I aged out, if you will.
so basically the only thing that we're trying to do is bump the percentage from 1.65 to 2%.
That's right. I mean, that is my sort of, that's the way I look at things. It seems to be somewhat logical that we might choose that. But, I really want to lay it on the table for folk to think about.
Sure.
We can certainly talk about it more here. We can think about it and return to a subsequent meeting and say, all right, I've given it some thought. Here's what I think. Or, I think we're in a quorum right now. You can express your opinion right now, however you feel.
Well, I have mixed feelings about it because when they were hired, they knew the terms of the pension
Fair?
and they knew they weren't going to be able to qualify.
Yeah. There's a bit of the changing the rules in the middle of the game in play.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Which always seems to benefit the employee rather than the employer. We wouldn't be able to attempt to change the rules.
To benefit the employer.
Right.
Okay.
But on the other hand, they both have served, in support of the town and the townspeople and deserve to be considered. If it was 1 year, we may be able to say you could work till you're 63 if the person was healthy enough and thought that they could do the function till 63. But 4 years is a long time, because then the person would be 66 or 67.
Well, I think as Bob explained, I think one of us, either police or fire, at 60 years old, carrying somebody down
Right.
3 flights of stairs is, I believe, it's a liability to the town versus anything else, because we have, we're not as young as we used to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I believe that's why the 62-year-old benchmark was put in there, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe I am.
Yeah. And there are 62-year-olds that could do it, and there are 72-year-olds that could do it,
Sure.
and there are 48 years old people that can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So depends on the person, their health, their condition, and all that stuff.
Mm.
I don't know. It's a tough question, but I think putting a limit that you'd have to have at least 20 years service may be reasonable.
Yeah, the only question is what Bob just brought up is if somebody comes in later in life from another department, or they transfer and they have, they put in, they get their vestment. I mean, we understand that that's what they agreed to, but I think that would be an exceptional benefit. And it would really help those people as a draw maybe going
Yeah.
forward, if that's part of the agreement,
And-
that there is an exemption there. That might also, help the town.
And also, as Andrew said, when somebody comes from another department, they're already trained. So they save the town, especially on the police side, they save the town from going through the police academy. They save on our side where they were probably an officer in another department, and they're coming because they were, their pension aged out up there. So they don't want to retire, but they want to keep going, and I believe it's a good thing for the town to hire people like that,
Yeah. So let's, without getting into names, are the two people in question, because one person, 1 month, that's not in question, are the two people from other departments? I believe one of them is not from another department, but served as a volunteer before he was hired at 44 years old or whatever.
Correct.
I remember.
Yes, both are original hires of the town. The police is a police officer and a firefighter in that category. And both are original hires at the town. They're not what I described as being and what Andrew was speaking of. Someone that came from somewhere else.
Right. So that's not the question, but I think Andrew brings up a good point. If we needed to recruit people, and I have 10 years in at, Cumberland, and I want to come to Little Compton, but I'm 40 years old, I'll never qualify for a pension in Little Compton, and I don't qualify. So I have 2 vested pensions, but not 1 full pension. Now, the 2 vested pensions may add up to 1 pension.
Yeah.
So coming from another department, if you're young enough, it's not a problem because you can work 25 years. But if you're at that age where you can't put 2 vested pensions together to 1 pension, then that could be a recruiting issue.
Right.
I mean, we lost some people at Tiverton once because they could go to Tiverton and qualify for a pension and not have to spend 25 years. It was only 20 years at the time.
That's a state pension.
We have
Right.
been vulnerable to that. That is, our public safety pension requires 25 years of service, and the state process or the state pension only requires 20 years. And many towns use the state pension as their
Right.
So you're right. There has long been that I'll come here, I'll spend a couple of years. If I like it, I'll stay here. If I don't like it, I can change, and I really haven't lost any time.
Right. And that was the case, I believe, with 2 people that we lost years ago to Tiverton. One was a fireman, one was a policeman, as I remember.
Yeah.
No.
And Tiverton's not the only destination.
Right.
Okay. This has been a very helpful conversation. I would like to put it on the agenda for the next meeting and get a considered vote as to what we want to do. If that's everyone's approval.
Well, what would we propose is the first issue.
Right. I've given you a suggestion. My suggestion would be that the same 2% per year be applied to a lesser number of years, for instance. Randy said it another way. That is, right now we allow, or the multiplier is 1.65. If the multiplier were 2, then a person who serves 21 years would get 42%, et cetera. So there is that way to accommodate it. Or it could be completely new plan, or it could be no plan at all because of the arguments that say we don't want to encourage that. We want to say here's what we offer at the outset, which is what we do, And a person who signs up with the knowledge that, yep, I get it. I'm not going to be able to get there. So those are all, those are all options that we could choose to pursue. But I value the perspective of the board primarily because you all have been doing this for some period of time and understand the puts and takes. And that's a very, very good discussion from both sides. So.
Well, as I remember, when one of the people was hired, it was controversial within the pension.
I'm sorry. Two things were happening. Steve has asked, could we make an exception for people that are hired locally?
Like these two cases where they know what they're getting into. And, they can apply or not apply.
So
Well, it would encourage them to go to Tiverton, get hired, and then retire and come here.
No, they'd be too old. We'd have to have an upper limit, 20 years or something like that. You couldn't. I mean, one of the people that was hired, that's in question, when that person was hired, we're not a hiring board. We're a pension board. So we're not consulted when people were hired, but we questioned why this person was hired at age 44, because they wouldn't be able to qualify for a pension. At the time they were hired, we questioned it. Now, the reason that we were given at the time was they had long-term honorable service as a volunteer. So we may be able to consider some of the volunteer service, or we could say you have to have at least 20 years service or 18 years, whatever, but you can't make it 10 years.
No. Well.
right.
Well, I think we need to think about this a little more.
Yeah, I'm suggesting, I think those options have been kind of laid out, and think it through, and we can decide how we want to proceed if we want to make any change. In other words, some have argued that maybe we don't. So let's do that so that we're not. I mean, I'm not saying so we're going to sit here until you figure it out. I don't think we want to do that. All right. The second one of these comes as a result of current negotiations that are in progress. What has been raised is, could there be, as you know, starting in 2012, new hires were required to contribute to their pension. Could there be an increase in that employee pension contribution in exchange for an increase in pension benefit? Could we pay in more so as to get out more? And the argument typically there is, when we have lost someone to another department, it's at least a factor, if not the primary factor, that other department has higher pension benefits. In some cases, they're higher pension benefits earlier than the person would be able to achieve here, or they may be the same, but they're more. So is there a way that we, the employees, could pay more into our pension so as to get more out the other side? And I don't have obviously, if I do the algorithms, we could, Roger could run it for us and we would just find out what the answer is. But this is a question we'd have to pose a certain circumstance, and someone would have to run it for us, say, if you offered 10% more, you'd have to collect over the life of the employee X dollars more per paycheck. And, that would, of course, be subject to the vagaries of the market, because like everything else, all of our other assumptions, they work fine if they're all in play. But if one of them doesn't work, then that assumption itself becomes a problem or a benefit to the outcome. So here too, I don't have, I would appreciate a little back and forth at now, but I don't think we want to sit here and say, so what are we going to do? I think we could handle that as well in this upcoming meeting. But do you have a reaction to the idea of the employees say, we'd like to have more, we'd like to have a larger pension benefit, and we're willing to pay more money as we get there to make that happen?
Well, if you do that for the public safety people, don't you have to do it for, school employees and other things?
Well, each of the contracts is separate.
Correct.
So the contracts that specify employee contributions, to my knowledge, for example, the school non-certified contract does not require a pension contribution. I don't believe, but I'm not sure because I don't negotiate it. The school department does. But just to give you that, for instance.
Right.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, that's a good point. That we would then have a difference of, well, which department do you belong to? And therefore that determines what your pension benefit is. But we already do that for
We
public.
have that now.
Right.
So,
Well,
Both of these proposals, let's say, end up hitting the pension fund a little bit harder. As these people retire with a larger pension coming out of it.
right.
And how do we determine if they're willing to pay more into it? It would be nice if it was revenue neutral, but I got the feeling that it's not going to end up that way.
Yeah. Well, right. If one takes, and there is good reason to do that, a cup is half empty perspective, yes, that's true. If the cup is half full, who knows? But you're right. I'm, one of the things that causes me to sort of sit still on this is we've lived, or I have for 18 years with a certain expectation, and it's regularly been either upheld or dashed. And that expectation, at least I know what it is, and I'm sort of comfortable with that. So, I get that. I mean, I'm with you. I don't know how one determines what that number might be. But to your point, suppose somebody with some analysis says, all right, if the employees want 10% more in their pension, they've got to contribute this many $100 per month additional. Then the employees say, hey, forget it. If that's the multiplier, we don't want to do that.
we did this analysis probably 10 years ago.
More than that, I believe.
Yeah.
It was before my time, so I think it was up with when Don Gomez was in 2002, 2004. I
And
know
it was-
time flies, but that's.
And if you guys remember, Bob and Steve would remember, way back in the day, right? Actually about 23 years ago, because I was hired then. We were paying into the pension, and Jane Cabot wanted us taken out of that paying into the pension. She
Right.
didn't want us to pay in.
Yeah,
Right, and that has subsequently changed. And now
right.
employees after 2012 are paying in, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, they don't mind paying in, but
Yeah.
they thought that if the people that paid in, if they paid in a little bit more, maybe get a little bit more on the other side, that's all.
Yeah, I think we'd have to go to the actuaries and to have them do a chart if you're paying this much more, but Roger's right. It's not going to be, if it's just revenue neutral, you're going to have to pay in too much to raise your pension.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm for myself and the two other people that we were just discussing, they would not be, we would not be involved in that study because we don't pay into the pension. It's only, like Steve said, it's only the people that paid in after 2012.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need a long period of time paying in to get a return back out at the retirement end. It wouldn't apply to people that have less, you know, it would be too much of a contribution for people that have less than 10 years left to serve.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Hmm.
But I don't believe that there's anybody there besides that have been paying in,
Mhm.
because we've had such a turnover in employees. I don't think that there's anybody that has more than 5 years.
Mhm.
So there would be, I'm not quite sure how the police, on the police side, how that works, but because they have some people that have been there for a while. But with us, we've had such a turnover in employees that I don't believe that there's anybody there besides the top 3 guys that are less than or more than 5 years.
Yeah, I know on the police side that we don't have anyone that's been on for more than I think it's at about eight years for us since we started contributing. So those people still have, you know, more than 10 years, more than 10 years to be able to contribute if that was an option. So I think the amortization would work in their favor, you know, over that longer period. I think it's something that's worthwhile to look at.
Well, there may be some people who would like to do that. And so we have to come up with a number. And then there are other people who might say, well, you know, it's just not worth it for me to kick in another 10, 12%. So pretty soon you're going to end up with all kinds of different pensions.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, right now, the percentage that's contributed is the same for everyone, right?
7.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, so you'd have to keep it the same.
So
So-
if we went to say from 7 to 10%,
Right.
you know, to get a little more back, I'd like to just see what the pension people have to say about that, you know, to up it like 3%.
Another several $1,000s.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile, you know, trying to do the analysis again. But as I remember, when the last time we looked at this, you had to be contributing above 15% for it to make any reasonable amount of difference to the pension payout. So if you want, where would we set the limits? You want to go from 7 to 10 to 12? What's the upper limit that we should have the actuary look at?
And find out how much they're gonna charge us.
Yeah, you've given me enough that I would suggest on both of these matters. First of all, you brought up the analysis that was done back in the early aughts. And so I need to break that out and get that circulated so we can look at what it said specifically. But I remember it as you're describing it, that it was, and it didn't come to pass. So I'm guessing it was too onerous
Right.
to be attractive or whatever. But that would give us a starting point. But I would also then approach the actuaries with, these are 2 questions. And I'll try to ask it in a way that doesn't result in the obvious answer is, sure, we can do that for you. I'd like to know if it's even a reasonable question. And then if we did, to your point, what would a study like that cost us and what would the outcome we would get? I can now be smarter in asking the question. So while we think on these 2 matters, I'm going to suggest I will do the contacting and get word back to you all as to what I find. so that when we discuss it next, we can do so with some facts on the table.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, anything more that we need to say on this matter?
There may be another alternative, just to, if it's going to cost the pension plan money to be more equitable to people like Randy, maybe we would be better just having a lump sum contribution per employee made into the plan for their, like a match to their contribution, whether they make a contribution or not. Because what we'll be doing if we let one class of employee contribute more to get a higher benefit, then we're discriminating against the older employees who don't have the opportunity to do that because they don't have that much time left. So we maybe also want to consider, all right, we like the concept, but what we'll do is you can contribute more, whether you're contributing or not, like people like Randy, and we'll make only a per employee contribution every year.
Which is in essence what we do, right?
No, we do it based on if they're contributing.
No,
I don't contribute to the pension.
Right. So what I'm saying is people like Randy don't contribute. So to make sure that they're not discriminated against because they don't have the opportunity to contribute because of their horizon to retirement, that, all right, people can contribute more into the plan, and we're limiting how much it's going to cost us by making a per employee contribution for every employee, whether you contribute or not.
and I'm responding to that last sentence with the fact that that is indeed what we do now and have done since the plan started, right?
Correct.
We contribute an amount on behalf of all the employees in the plan that the actuary tells us is necessary to pay the unfunded balance and with a 30-year amortization. Now, that's a whole other subject, which I have great suspicions about, since the 30-year amortization doesn't ever seem to get amortized, but nonetheless, that's what we do. We pay an amount to do just what you said every year for all the employees.
But it doesn't go into an individual account for that employee.
No, that's correct.
So what I'm saying is, all right, Randy doesn't have any contributions. So what I think we should consider, I'm not saying this is what I would recommend, but I'm saying we should look at it.
Yeah.
All right, so the employees who are contributing want to contribute another 2%. And for the ones that don't, we'll give them what it cost us for the employees that are contributing. Maybe it's $800 a year, maybe it's $1,000 a year extra, so that we keep them at the same level as the employees who are now getting an additional benefit from the town, because they're not going to be able to contribute enough money just on their own to enhance their pension. So it's going to cost us something for that group of employees, but it's not going to cost us any more for the employees in Randy's category, because they don't contribute and their pension's not going to be enhanced.
Okay.
So somehow to keep them on a parity basis, say, okay, for Andrew, he's contributing 2% more a year, and we have to contribute another $1,000 a year to get him what he wants from his pension. Well, we'll give that $1,000 a year also to the other employees who don't contribute.
Okay.
Or else it's not a great deal for people in Randy's category.
But there's only three of us. I don't believe that there's anybody in the police anymore on the police side. Maybe the lieutenant, I'm not sure, that doesn't pay into the pension. I believe there's only.
There's a few.
Oh.
There's 4 or 5.
Right.
There's actually 5, half the department.
Okay,
anyone after, I'm included with you, I don't pay in. So it was 2 years after me, so Ryan forward,
Right. It's about half the department.
right.
okay.
So that would
Yeah.
definitely be appreciated to be able
Yeah.
to keep that parity, like you said, for those that don't contribute.
Yeah.
And that's with the dispatches. There's 2 dispatches that pay in and 2 that do not.
Right.
Okay. Very good. All right. It opens another question, which is, should we move in the direction of a hybrid plan that offers participation directly, which may also be spurred by this conversation. That is, okay. I've got enough to talk to the actuary, and if you all would give this some thought and see what you think is being what is best, we can bring it back again. Thanks for the advice. The next item is to review the locally administered pension plan survey. I put the survey submittal. Joe DeSantis is on with us, the finance director. He produced a submittal, which then, as it turns out, all of the towns did that, and the report was issued. So what you have in front of you is the report, which comes from our submittal. And so if you want to look at our particular performance, it's on, obviously, the little Compton page. It's alphabetical.
Page 15.
Page 15. Yeah. I have already raised with Joe the fact that we're given credit. We're given only 4 stars, and I thought we rate 5 stars in consistency of meeting the required minimum contribution. So I've asked that we investigate that. But otherwise, the data that you see there is what he submitted and what we have currently. I'm sorry, what we had currently as of this the fiscal year that's being reported upon. Now, note that the payroll growth assumption and the current investment return assumption are the old numbers. They're not the numbers that we right now have. We've changed that to 2.5 and 7.00. So, comments or questions with respect to that report?
I didn't understand why it said that we didn't meet the actuarial requirement.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I said. We're asking that question. This is a draft. We don't know, or I don't know either why we're not, because there is no such year in which we didn't meet the minimum. So some other thing triggered it. And if you look at the table that tells you how you get the various levels of stars, there's an implication that at least 1 year you have to contribute more than the required amount. Well, we've done that as well. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we fell down, but otherwise, the report is what it says.
Hi, Mary. It's Kay speaking. It's about, I don't know what time it is now. Monday morning. Give me a call when you have a chance. Thanks.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Next item is to review the annual report of the pension committee, and I'd like your approval to submit this as our report for the year.
Look fine to me.
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Watts, second by Ham, that we approve the annual report of the pension committee, which will be given at, or will be submitted at the financial town meeting. Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Lord,
Aye.
Mr. Watt,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Manchester Wilkie,
Aye.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mush and I. Thank you very much. The next is to approve the actuary's invoice for calculation of benefits. That was for two people. For Wes Johnson and Chris Condon.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
Second,
Motion made by Morgan and seconded by Mara. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Lord,
Aye.
Mr. Watt,
aye,
Mr. Morgan,
All right,
Ms. Manchester Wilkie,
Aye.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mush and I. Thank you.
Bob, that motion was seconded by Randy, not me.
Thank you very much. The next is to to approve the minutes of the last meeting in April.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Whose was the second? I'm sorry.
me.
Thank
Roger.
you. Any discussion? One more roll call vote. Mr. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Lord,
Aye.
Mr. Watt,
aye,
Mr. Morgan,
all right.
Ms. Manchester Wilkie,
Aye.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mush and I. Our next meeting is the 7th of June. It will likely still be in this format, but who knows? We may be able to break through. Is there anything else that someone wishes to bring before us?
Is that 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, thank you. All right, having no further business and being very grateful for the work that you've done this morning, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.